This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results. Are you ready to feel the power?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game, and we are at a point in our podcasting career where we get the pleasure of having some of our favorite people back on for a second time. And Mr. Mike Crowley from Syracuse, New York, is with us today, fresh off of a family vacation to the southern portion of Alabama. As someone who lived in that great state, I refer to that as the Redneck Riviera. It's very similar, if you're familiar with Tampa, to the patch of beach, if you want to call it that goes between St. Pete and Gandy side of Tampa. I mean, I'm teasing, obviously. Gulf Shores is absolutely beautiful, but I was trying to make Kyle laugh, and he's running through his head. Wait a minute, what place is he talking about?
I'm like
that
picturing
area
I'm
over
like
by
picturing,
the Getaway.
Yeah,
on the
I'm
Gandy
picturing
Bridge,
the map of Tampa Bay. Yeah,
the St. Pete side of Gandy's terrible. I have a standing streak.
100%.
A standing.
I used to
streak
live
of-
over there.
Well, listen, 20 years of me driving past that. 100% of the time, there is a white panel van between the bushes.
For sure. Just and it's been there for a few days, and the guy's just fishing out of the back of it like a maniac.
Maybe that's what he's doing. Although
right.
Mike probably doesn't know this because I doubt it made national news. I finally had to Google where McKay Bay was. I didn't realize where that is. It's over there off of 50th Street by IKEA and all of that. But they found a car and random floating body parts there, like last week or the week before. Yeah. They get the whole thing on the news now. I typically don't watch the news that much, but
neither do I.
Yeah, and by the way, the guy that they arrested for it, painfully obvious from the booking picture that he did it. Like, I mean, this guy looks like somebody who did it. There is no innocent until proven guilty in this.
That's why you don't watch the news.
Yeah, no
Right.
kidding, man. There's nothing to be gained
Nothing
from
good.
it. No, nothing at all. So, what's going on, man? What's going on with the agency? I mean, it's been a pretty crazy year. I mean, you're in probably one of the worst parts of the country in New York for what COVID did to people. I'm not saying one of the worst parts in the country. I need to get it all out. But, as far as how New York handled COVID and everything, the world changed for a lot of people. And that's one of the things we were talking about with Hanley on the last podcast. How much did it change for you guys?
Yeah, you're right. When it started, New York shut down, right? And they were the first to shut down. They stayed shut down. They made a whole guideline changes. So when everybody else reopened, New York was, still kind of puttering along. And, some people took it a lot harder than others, and it's causing a big divide between people, right? And it's how you would think, a Republican and Democrat would, hate each other for certain aspects. It's becoming like the antis and the not antis, and it's just problems. And, businesses shut down. Businesses have had to change, the way they operate, and it's been difficult. But for us that were already pretty, advanced with technology, it probably we changed our mindset of how we, approach our clients. We no longer have an open door. And I know you guys have talked about it, how often does somebody walk in that's a great risk that you want to, sit down with immediately, interrupting your day to quote insurance for them. And, exactly. So we used to get that. We had a lot of walk-in traffic. We had a lot of, people still paying cash, monthly payments, a lot of disruption that is no longer there because either everything was shut down for so long that people got used to figuring out how to pay their bill online or, mailing a check versus like coming in and paying us. So, that has helped us dramatically to allow us to utilize our time better. We've always utilized video. We've always utilized, DocuSign and all the other, tools that it's available to us. And this has just kind of helped. And where I'm sitting there going, I'm never going to go back. Like I don't care what's going on outside. I'm not going to go back where somebody can just walk in and take an hour of my time unannounced. I still have carrier reps that are trying to knock on the door just randomly. And it's like, if you haven't learned by now, I'm not letting you in. Make an appointment. So,
well, it's funny, man. Taking cash is so foreign to us.
Dude, I could not literally imagine walking into an insurance agency and giving them cash for like my car insurance every month. So crazy.
I hear about it all the time, though. And the other thing is and so when we launched Personal Lines, don't you remember how weird that was, Kyle? Like it even happened a couple times during sales meeting where reps would just walk in, like unannounced. That doesn't happen in our world, like never.
Not anymore. No.
But I mean, no, that was the thing, man. That lady came. I will never forget that one really militant lady came in. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I guess it wasn't that weird to me because I used to do that, and I would just walk in and show up, and people would be meeting or on the phone or whatever, and I would have to adjust my game a little bit in order to.
Yeah, but she wanted to have a full-blown meeting unannounced.
Oh yeah, I mean no.
That's not how we roll.
Here's your numbers for the last quarter. Let's look at them. Like
yeah.
That should have went away 10 years ago, right? And there was still some of the old school marketing reps that continued to do it because they realized, all right, if I try and make an appointment, I'm not going to be able to get in and talk to the person I really want to talk to. I'm going to talk to somebody else because they're going to push me off. Okay, but if I just show up, not only will I talk to the support staff and I get some FaceTime here, but I can maybe see the owner or the main dog that they want to talk to, and so they would just try their luck at it. And then luckily you started seeing people saying, okay, let's schedule this, or let's I'm going to be in the area at 11 o'clock on Thursday. Can I pop in? And they give you a 3-day notice, and it's like no. It's now turned into the point, and I loved your analogy I heard recently, David, when you were saying, "Listen, I'm Ron Burgundy with my calendar." It's there. Honestly, and it's so true, and it's to the point now where it's like, all right, you want an appointment? Here's my block time for carrier appointments, like because there's no other time I'm letting you in here.
Yeah, and my thing is, it's not that I don't want to meet with them, man.
No.
I'm happy to meet with these reps. I want to know what's going on. I mean, my God, when I go into the internet forums and see what other agents are asking in terms of questions, I'm like, you don't have any clue what the products are that you're selling. And then, that same person a couple days later is posting about how, oh yeah, I just shut down another marketing rep for coming in my office. Well, yeah, that's great, friend. But that's also why you're in here, displaying your ignorance to everybody about not understanding, coverage forms and extensions and appetite and all of that other stuff. A lot of that would be completely gone away if we all just said, you know what? I need to give each one of my reps just one day a quarter. I don't know that you need to meet with them more than that. You might not even need to meet with some of them that often, but open yourself up and say, I'll give you one a quarter. What's the worst that could happen? I mean, we might have 20 carrier reps tops for our agency. Right. So 20 people a quarter, that's one slot, one day, 20 days out of 90. I can make that happen because I understand there's going to be a return on investment for me. I'm going to know something about their appetite or underwriting guidelines that other people aren't taking that meeting, but it's got to be scheduled. And so when I pushed back, when we got into the homeowner stuff and personal line stuff, when I pushed back, people would just say, look, that's company policy. Sorry, that's what they expect us to do. We can't schedule. I'll try and give you a heads up. There were times I would come in and I'd have like 4 or 5 business cards wedged in the crack of the door from carrier people, and they all would come by on the same day or whatever, and I happened to be out at meetings.
Right. Well, and that's how their job is graded. How many stops did you make? It's almost like probably when you were, going door to door, selling office supplies, Kyle, when it was like, how many stops did you make? Whether you talked to them or not, like, let's see how many.
That was the first number that everything stemmed from was that number. I mean,
Yeah.
so I get it, but like, I don't know. I just feel like they could totally lie about however many agencies
Exactly.
they stopped at.
Dude, I've got a carrier
They
rep
used to
that
lie
will come
about
by
businesses
here.
I went to.
Yeah, commercial carrier rep that comes by here religiously once a month. I know he's not supposed to visit me once a month, but he's just checking off the box, and he will
Right.
come
Yeah.
with a backpack full of crap from that carrier that immediately goes home and goes to my kids.
Yeah, exactly. So, that stuff has all helped, this last year and a half, tremendously. We've gone through ebbs and flows in New York of what's going on, and we're seeing, change, but that's why we're not changing our guidelines. We kept it the way it is for the fact that we're running our business smoother. Why would we change just because, a pandemic is, at ease or, whatever the case may be? I'm never going to change it. Like this will be the new way of business for us, even though, we're still a Main Street agency.
So, what kind of tech have you added in order to make those changes?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to go with too. I was going to say, Mike has done a good job about pushing tech into the agency, sometimes begrudgingly with his partners, I imagine. But he's a tech forward guy. So I am interested to hear if you've added anything or just refined what you were already using.
It kind of turned into using now everybody is using. So some of the things that we did now is everybody's doing, or everybody is implementing. A lot. More
that
frequently.
made your life a lot easier.
Oh gosh, yeah. We had no choice, and we've gotten to the point now where we're really set up. We're all back in the office, but if somebody needs to work remote, on a because their kid got quarantined and they got to go stay home because where else are they going to go, or there's an issue with daycare or anything like this, people are like, hey, do you mind if I work home tomorrow? I'm like, no, go grab your computer and go. And that's helped a lot. We switched to Lightspeed voice, which that helped. That was probably the only new tech that we added in that we didn't have prior to the pandemic. But everything else, defining, making sure that we are using, the tools that are there that we're paying for, more consistently, and not just, hey, Mike's using this and let's now all use it.
So the Lightspeed edition, is that helped just from a standpoint of, you can listen to the calls since people aren't sitting necessarily next to each other in the office and all of that, or is it bigger than that?
It's bigger than that. So it's also, right now because of a schooling issue, I got one employee that works from home 3 days a week, and we buzz him in and he answers the phone just like he's sitting here. And to me, that's the biggest thing. Obviously the recording is great. That's obviously been a huge help, but it's more of the being able to work like you're in the office, not in the office. And the fact that we're not letting people in unannounced, nobody knows the difference. Like it's now turned into, you want an appointment or something along those lines. They'll do it on a day you're here versus, just popping in, hey, is so-and-so here? Well, no, he's not here. Like, sorry, you should have called first. It's like, how did people not realize that you can't just pop into your insurance person? You can't pop into your attorney. You can't pop into your accountant's office. And if you can, you're not talking to them, or they're charging. So it's
better call Saul. I mean, he'll take a meeting with anybody. That guy. What was the driving force though for you to make? I mean, we're very happy with Lightspeed. We've had them for a couple of years. I'm friends with Steve and Brad and Greg and everybody over there. Huge fans for them. I don't get paid to say that. We actually use them in the agency. And for us, it's been good because we have that direct integration with HubSpot. I had a choice. We could either integrate with HubSpot or HawkSoft, not both. Yep. So we decided to go with HubSpot. It now gives us call pops when somebody calls in that is a contact. It's going to pop up the contact record just like we would want. It'll record the call, attach it to the contact record inside the CRM, and then we can go back and listen to it. Yep. Later, and we also have it as evidence if we ever need it for evidence purposes. It's been really good for us though with regards to being able to, I have had two main uses for it. Number one, for us to be able to listen to the telemarketer that's setting appointments for us. That's huge. not groundbreaking technology, right? I mean, to be able to record calls. The insurance industry's recorded calls for years, but all of the other stuff that I said and the fact that I can go to his call list and click on each individual contact and get to that makes it much easier to review more calls from a QC standpoint.
Yep.
The other thing I really like about it, though, is for the other side of what I do, I have an agent in Killing Commercial or whatever that calls me and they need advice and I have to walk them through something and we're not on a Zoom. All those calls are recorded now, and I can immediately, boom, turn around and send those over to that person that I had the call with so that they aren't trying to keep up with me taking notes. You know, I just give it to them and they can slow it down and listen to it whenever they want. So I think that has been some of the biggest uses, but I'm interested, were you guys on a VoIP prior or were you on a regular landline? That's what I wondered. And I didn't mean that to be smart, man. I mean, I know enough about your agency to know that some of the stuff there is original for all practical purposes. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we were taking cash payments. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where you know, when you got multi generations and this is the way somebody's been doing something for 50 years as a customer, you know, you feel kind of, you know, bad saying, hey, you know, sorry, Mrs. Jones, you know, I appreciate you coming in every year and paying, you know, with, you know, dollar bills that turned yellow under your mattress, but you know, now you can't pay us like this anymore. I know you've been doing it since my grandfather. Like we normally would not have done that. We probably never would have done that. Except this forced us to. And for a while, we had people just dropping cash in our mailbox. You know, they would put a little note saying, here's my monthly payment. And, you know, finally they just learned after a while that they stopped. So, you know, when the VoIP system, you know, pushing that through was mainly had to do with the E&O and the recording, right? So being able to have it automatically just drop and record every conversation allows us to have that backup that says, you didn't tell me this. And, you know, we've used that for years, or at least the last 4 years with our video proposals for new business, where I've had to pull back old proposals from years past that says, well, I know I did tell you this. It was, you know, on minute 3, you know, this is what I said. And the person all of a sudden, you know, sits back in their boots and says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I totally forgot that you told us this. And their little backup is gone. And, you know, to be able to do that when it comes to the, you know, the full staff for, you know, all conversations, you know, to me was a must in today's day and age. Like, I didn't want to have to deal with a problem on something I know that we took care of the right way because the customer forgot.
Everybody's so sue happy these days. It's crazy.
Right. And so with that,
I think the other thing too, though, is, you know, let me be devil's advocate or just express a different viewpoint for a second. If you're guilty, right? If I make a mistake and I have it recorded that I made the mistake, ultimately my goal is I want everybody to be happy. I want to at least leave them in the same position they were when they came to me. So, you know, for me, if I did make the mistake, there's proof that I made the mistake. That's a really quick way just to fire that over to your E&O carrier and say, look, I screwed up. We need to resolve the claim. Here's what I have. They have a copy of this because I originally sent it to them. This is what we're dealing with. Let's get it taken care of as quick as we can. Thankfully, we've never had to do that, knock on wood. But I look at it from that standpoint too, because the last thing I want to have to deal with is, God forbid we do have an E&O claim, have that thing drag on forever because
and they do.
It's a he said, she said deal. Yeah. I think it just makes it more cut and dry. And I think you'd get more respect. Look, people make mistakes. I see the thing all the time. You know, I saw the meme pop up again this morning that says you'll go to McDonald's 10,000 times and have them screw up your order. A small business order or a small business owner messes something up once and you blast them on social media for eternity. Yep. You know, people just want things to be fixed, right? And if you're not somebody who is willing to at least give us the opportunity to make it right. Look, I understand the situation sucks. I understand we screwed up. I can't go back and fix that. All I can do is give you my very best effort to make you whole going forward, and I'm willing to do that. That's part of what my job is. Let's figure out how to work through this thing together. And I think that, you know, when you're open in your communication that way, it makes a big difference.
Well, I think that's the job of an independent agent, right? You know, we're supposed to be that honest partner, that, you know, that advisor that's going to help the person through things. If we're trying to slide things past them or to do things and not in an honest way, you know, what good are we, right? So, you know, there's where it gives you that little bit like, hey, I know I told you this, you know, here's the proof. They can hear it in their voice, or, you know, I screwed up. Let me own it and let me fix it. And it just makes life easier versus just saying, oh, did I say that? You know, did I take that great note and leave it in the system the way it should have? Those things kind of can happen so frequently, especially depending on your staff size. How many
Such
people
a
are
panic
doing
when
this?
that happens too.
Oh,
And somebody says you never told me that, and you're like, no, I definitely did. And then you're like, wait a minute, oh, shit, did I do that or did I not?
yeah.
And you go back.
The email chain, the recording, everything gets pulled up as fast as possible, being like,
Yeah.
I swear I told them this. Yeah, no,
Right.
it's
Mike, have you ever had to go through an E&O claim before?
yes.
Yeah, so have I. I was absolved from it because I had done
was I.
everything that I was supposed
Right.
to do. But it's not something that I necessarily enjoyed or want to have to deal with again.
Nope.
And it was you're 100% right. I mean, it was like literally, I didn't even realize I had generated that many emails and paperwork around one account. And when they went through discovery, and then I was literally deposed for 9 hours over something that would have taken 5 minutes. And the whole thing was to get me to trip up and contradict myself. And I just finally told the guy, I'm like, look, there was really only one issue with this account from the very beginning. And I was vocal about it from the beginning. And you've seen that in every single email. What leads you to believe that I'm going to be inconsistent in my testimony today when you're deposing me?
Well, and that, we never got that far, luckily, because I was able to, give all that paperwork. Here's the 10 email chains and the notes and the conversations. And, I didn't have any recordings on any of the phone at that point, but it was like, I told him everything just because he doesn't believe in anything or doesn't want to, buy it because he's the one that's sitting there without the coverage that I told him he should have had. It's, it's just one of those things. And he took it to that next level and they just had to, kind of go through that process. So it's just a pain for everybody. And so this gives it a little bit more.
In my scenario, the carrier actually was found liable. I was absolved as the agent because I had done everything I was supposed to do. What happened was we had written a GL policy. Well, we wrote everything, but on the GL policy, this client came to me because they had an issue with a very specific product. They knew they had the issue with the product. It had been recalled and quarantined several years prior, and we needed to exclude that product. It was no longer being made. They had.
I don't know if I know this story. I'm
You
trying.
do know
I'm like,
the story.
yeah.
Yeah. So the product was an exercise ball.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. And
I
I'll just
do.
give you
I do know
the
this
short
story.
version of the claim is 2 fat people were screwing on an exercise ball. The ball blew up, and they filed a claim for loss of companionship, loss of consortium, and everything else. What happened was, though, when the proposal came out, there was a designated products exclusion in the proposal, both the proposal from the carrier and from me as the agent, that clearly showed. And I had multiple conversations, both in person and on email, that we were going to need to exclude this. It was already excluded on the policy that existed prior to ours. Okay. But the problem is when the carrier issued the policy, the endorsement was blank. So the designated product wasn't listed.
Yep.
And I had it on the applications, I had it in the proposals and everywhere else. And basically, after all of the back and forth, they found that the carrier and the underwriter specifically, because the underwriter had 25 plus years experience underwriting this type of risk, should have caught it. Yep. And carrier came back and said it's a basic scrivener's error. Obviously, that wasn't our intent, and that was their argument. And that was how it was originally ruled. But then it went to the appellate court, and the appellate court overturned and found them.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was only very much involved, like, for the day that I had to be deposed and the time leading up to that. After my deposition, it was like a week later, and I got notice that I'd been, removed from the case as well as my agency. But it was not a fun time, man. Like, you always have to, and this is one of those ones where I knew I did everything right. There was no doubt in my mind. I had and I was documenting things before anybody ever told me to document it, just because of my time in grocery and dealing with the HR issues. I document all of that crap. Probably not in the most organized fashion, but I had it, right? And so
Right.
I knew I was right, but you're always wondering, like, am I really at the mercy of our judicial system at this point?
Yeah.
And no matter how much I thought I was correct, I could have gotten the screws put to me.
Well, if you didn't document as well as you did, what kind of hoops would you have had to jump through to potentially get out of it? And that's the problem, right? That's the problem that, we as an industry have to face. Everybody listening needs to face. It's just the fact that this is now, your main role is to document what you're doing, right? Because you can give every piece of advice, you can do everything the right way, but if there's no back end to that, you could have a hassle on your hands, and it's just not worth that hassle. That's for sure. So
but video proposals, man, I mean, you guys have been doing them longer than we have. I can tell you what's blown my mind the most about video proposals, specifically quote vids with Advisor Evolved, because you're an Advisor Evolved client too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you going through the site refresh, or have you already had yours done?
I already had mine done before the site refresh project came out.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I talked to Chris the other day, and I'm like, dude, I bet you like 80% of your people ask to have their site refreshed, and you're just getting buried right now. And he said, pretty much.
Yeah, we did a little, update last year when COVID first started. I wanted to make a few changes.
Well, then you're on the new technology anyhow that he has.
Yeah.
Good deal.
He said if you want something else, you're going to the bottom of the list. And I said, that's fair enough.
He always beats around the bush so much. You never really know where you stand with Chris.
Yeah.
But I mean, how about your team? I mean, have more people in your organization adopted that? If you say that people are starting to use Mike's technology, I'm interested. Are you having to be the quote vid jockey, or is everybody sort of pitching in and doing their own thing?
For the sales team, yes, we are. I hired a new sales producer last year during COVID, so that was a requirement of him starting. There was no bad habits that we had to change or old habits we had to change. This is the way you sell insurance with us. This is part of our, our brand. And actually, that's something I wanted to talk about, with you, David. I want to tell a little story. Kyle might not even know it, about how I sent a referral to you, in a last month or 2 months ago or whatever it was. And it was a client of mine moving to Florida, relocating their business, and it was a small business, right? And I asked, hey, is this even something you want to deal with? Everyone knows, or anybody that knows you, thinks of you as the, the middle market, comp guru, right? Even though, the people that really do knows that you, will dabble and take everything, and you're not going to push away a good risk just because of premium size.
Well, I'm also
right?
going to help my friends, man.
That too, right?
Yeah.
And so, after an introduction email or whatever else, I was pretty hands off, and all of a sudden you sent me a nice message that said, hey, I just, locked this down, and, I stayed late and, put it in a video proposal just because her expectation might be a video proposal, right? And, that, one, that meant a lot. I mean, obviously I'm very vocal that I've been doing video proposals for a while, but, the fact that you took a small commercial policy, right? It's not this big, mammoth account, and we're able to say, hey, listen, her expectations expecting a video proposal. Maybe this is years. This is the way, the way she expects it. I want to make sure I meet her expectations.
Yeah, I can't let you show me up, Crowley. I mean,
right.
I can't come in and have this lady be like, I'm taking 3 steps down. Who's this schlep Crowley referred me to? But have any technology? What's he going to send me my proposal on a cocktail napkin?
That's, and that's the beauty of this, is the fact that, you took it to that level because you knew where it came from. You're not sitting there saying, oh, well, this lead or prospect does not, deserve my, time to do a video proposal. Because I've heard some people say that in the past, like, oh, I'll do it for these people, or I'll do it for this, or, I'll do it, but my staff won't do it. And it's like, if the expectations that you are building as an agency, or the brand you're building as an agency, has that part of your brand, how can you not deliver it as part of, your process? Like, that needs to be your process.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of what I do goes back to my days in retail, and people in the insurance industry probably don't realize this, but the average net profit for a grocery store is 1%. So I come from an industry where I have to do everything I can to give somebody an experience that will get them to put as many groceries into a shopping cart as I can get them to in my store, so that I can make $1 off of 100, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing to think about how well that has served me in the insurance industry. But take it a step. I mean, obviously I can joke in being completely transparent. I knew that this lady was going to expect a quote vid because I know that's what your agency does. And I did not want to look bad. Like I 100%, like I said it laughing, but I wasn't going to look bad compared to you when you sent it over. But at the same time, I don't care if somebody spends $100 in your agency or they spend 100,000. Those people should never be made to feel different. They should have a great client experience. I'm not saying they should have the same client experience because it's a completely different level of hands-on servicing and everything else when you're having to go out and do risk management visits and everything else. But if at the core, the idea is you're going to make somebody feel like you can make whoever you're talking to at that time feel like the most important person in your life at that point. And if you provide the service level to match that initial interaction when you're trying to get the business, this is a really easy industry, man, because there's so many people who are bad at that.
Oh,
right?
So true.
If you're just good at, I mean, I don't care. You don't have to know anything at all about insurance. If you know how to treat people good and make them feel special, make them feel important, that is 90% of the battle. You'll get the insurance part figured out. At some point you will, but you've got to make people the priority, period. People have problems. They don't need to buy products.
Exactly. And, I kind of wish somebody would write a book about, how to take an extra 2 minutes on doing something to,
Hey, you got it. You got it in the flesh, brother. You got it personified. It's so funny, man. When I spoke at the Better Agency Users Conference out in Arizona last spring, Nick Ayers introduced me. And he got up and he said, I want to introduce this guy. He said, I've spent time with David. I've stayed at his house. We've been on vacation together, all of this other stuff. And he said, the one thing I'm going to tell you is this guy is always on, period. Like whatever it is, he's there, period. And I had completely forgotten about it, but we were in Key West. They had come down to pick my brain and Cass's brain about some stuff for Better Agency. And, we were in a golf cart. We were getting ready to actually go do a jet ski deal around the island and weren't talking shop at all. And Nick, leans over and he's like, hey, man, I was hoping maybe if you didn't mind, we could have maybe an hour or two this afternoon to just sort of sit down and hash through some things. Are you on? Are you okay for that? And he said, without hesitation, I cut eyes at him and said, I'm always on. And that was it. That was the entire conversation. And that's the truth, man. Like if I walked out of my front door and there was somebody that I thought I could sell to in the parking lot, you can be sure that I'm taking my A game and I'm going to try and do that. I don't care about the size of the policy. I just like to win. I like the taste of blood. I want to go kill it, period. End of story.
Well, and when you do that, right, when you do it to that level and give that experience every time, that's where the retention comes in, right? There's where the referrals come in. It's if you were
decision.
Right. If you were operating your grocery store and you sold, a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread to somebody, they might never come back because maybe they were passing through. Right. And, that was that model. If an insurance agency is running at a model of I'm just trying to sell a product and I'm not trying to, build this relationship with, that person that's just outside the door as I walk in that looks like a good risk, because what's that going to turn into? What if you spend those extra 2 minutes to prep, your proposal a certain way or document something on your back end, those extra 2 minutes, I literally will quote your book once a week in my agency to somebody. And I say the words and honestly, I'm going to make a sign, right? Just the extra 2 minutes, right? Because it's on everything you do. If you take extra 2 minutes to do anything, it has become the answer to solve probably all your problems. It'll solve that E&O problem if you get involved in one because you took an extra 2 minutes to make sure that the recording's done because you signed up for, Lightspeed Voice or one of the other VoIP systems, or you noted everything, or you had the right proposal because you actually put in the exclusion page on that product. Those are all things that can go about your entire day. And if you do that, your agency is going to be so set up for success. Like there's just no question about it because this business is so easy because there are so many people that are bad at it.
Your process should be your process regardless of who you're dealing with. Otherwise, it's not really a process. I mean, the Bucks aren't practicing differently because they're playing the Carolina Panthers versus the Packers. Like they're going to still go out and practice the same, or they should. I mean, their intensity might be different, but that's on them personally. I mean, the structure of the practice and the things they're doing got to be the same. Otherwise,
Exactly.
you know.
Crowley, I wouldn't run right out and buy a sign quite yet. You may have a little something coming to you.
Perfect.
Yeah, you haven't seen the second time around guest gift yet. So there's few that have that so far, but I think it'll meet your needs.
Awesome.
So
No, it's
listen, what are the other things? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's unbelievable that this comes up, and I sit there sometimes, when we're talking about, is my staff using video proposals, or and I hear that a lot from agency owners. They'll ask me. I've trained agencies, like they can't get their staff to do it, and they ask for my advice, and I'll sit there and be like, well, I'll jump on a call with your team, or I'll do a video proposal example to show them how
everybody's
easy it is.
team listens to somebody else more than they
Correct.
listen to the leader.
It's 100% true. That's why there's a whole bunch of great trainers out there, right? They're great because what they say. If they were great at running an agency, they might have stayed and ran an agency. But people don't want to listen to that person. They want to listen to the outside person, and they found their niche. So you sit there and it's like, all right, well, let's jump on a call and figure out why you're not doing this. Well, I'm nervous about this. Well, let me debunk that and say, this is why you shouldn't be nervous about this. And here's why you should do it. And, I'll read Google reviews that we've gotten as an agency, and the amount of them that say, I really liked the video walkthrough. I really liked, the video proposal. I really like this. And it's like, if we didn't do it for everybody, and then, a referral from somebody comes in and this is the experience that they got, and they look back and they say, well, I didn't get one of those. How are they going to feel? They're going to feel like crap. It doesn't matter the premium size. It's just the fact that this is now our brand. This has become part of our brand.
And this is somebody that was probably getting ready to head over to Google and give you a good review. And when they get there, they start seeing this and realize they didn't get it. And they're like, wait a minute, hold on a second. I thought I had a good experience, but all these 5 stars got videos. What's the deal?
I'm giving a 4. We're walking away.
Yeah. By the way, why is there anything other than like 1 and 5? Like, I don't even understand how you grade the rest of it. You either met expectations or you exceeded them. Period. Like you either exceeded expectations or you didn't meet them. To me, that's how it is. Maybe you throw a 3 in there just because you met expectations.
Right, and actually anything under a 5, I reach out to. Right, and I and I have custom things. Especially if it's a 4. I'll reach out and say something. The amount of people that have left 4s, which isn't many, but a couple, that I, put my little spiel email to, appreciating the review. They come back and say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I thought I clicked the.
And it's because they're not tech
savvy or whatever else, and they're probably trying to do it fast from their phone.
Show up and yank their landscaping out.
And I'm like, hey, don't worry about it.
The master, that's Daniel Song. Like that guy. Number one, the volume of Yelp reviews that he has is, sickening to me. And those are only the ones we can see. I found out that he's got even more that Yelp doesn't publish.
Which is ridiculous, by the way.
He's just got archived Yelp reviews just sitting in a bunker somewhere.
This guy, I have seen this guy turn a 1 into a 5 so many times because listen, people, if you don't take anything out of this podcast today, take this. Get yourself a healthy dose of accountability for Christmas. Demonstrate accountability in your agency. Own up to it. You're not perfect. None of us are. You're not going to get it right every single time. And the difference between the people that are going to ultimately be the most successful and those that are just going to run in the hamster wheel for the rest of their career is the fact that the people that are winners demonstrate accountability. They take ownership of their actions, and they're constantly doing the things they need to do to make themselves, their company, and their team better, period. That's it. There's a general lack of accountability everywhere in society. It's not limited to this industry, and that is something that is a conscious choice. You don't need to go read a book about it. You don't need to go listen to self-help. You don't need to see a counselor or a therapist or whatever else. You can just say, I'm taking ownership of everything I do from this point forward, and you're going to have a major change in your career. That's not rocket science, but it's difficult to do because we're so used to seeing people blame other people. Well, we didn't have this in stock because it's a supply chain issue. There is crap that is not on shelves right now that has absolutely nothing to do with the supply chain issue. It's just easier for somebody to say that it's a supply chain issue than to figure out how to solve the problem. The same thing holds true. We're in Florida. We have an absolutely brutal homeowners market down here right now, right? I could do whatever I need to do to make excuses about it being the way it is, or I could solve a problem for people. Sadly, me demonstrating accountability in that is saying, you know what, we're not the best agency for you right now. We don't have the same number of carrier contracts that others do because we've only had our personal lines department for a couple of years and we're still building it up. Let me refer you to an agency like Billy Wagner or Michelle Mosier or whoever that has 25, 30 just homeowners contracts alone and take care of that client. At the end of the day, that person's going to remember that I admitted I couldn't meet their needs. And instead of me trying to do it and doing a half-hearted job at meeting their needs, I met their needs by giving them to the right person.
Well, and you see so many people in this industry, especially in some of the circles that we run in, where everyone's trying to chase everybody else, right? I want to learn and be like David when it, workers' comp coverage. I want to do video like Nick Ayers. I want to do, this like this person. And, they spend so much time trying to chase and trying to get better at something that maybe isn't fit your needs. Like David's not going to try and compete with, Billy Wagner's personal lines, process right there. It's just not going to happen. But, do we even do that with our own internal teams, right? So why aren't we pushing our teams to, I might do video proposals, staff slide on it. Well, no, that's not the accountability we should be doing to try and build. Stop these things of people out there and start holding yourself, your team, and your agency to that same level. Building people up from the bottom, not chasing the person at the top.
Well, the number one reason I could never compete with Billy Wagner is he's writing policies and I'm still shaving, right? Billy had his hair.
That's why I stopped like Kyle.
Face. Yeah, Billy had no lie, Kyle.
Right.
Billy had laser hair removal on his face, so he never had
What?
to shave again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude!
This
Come on.
guy looks at every minute of his day, and he can tell you how many
could never.
hours of his life he gained by not having to shave.
His team is like so on point with things when it comes
Just
to
completely
personal line
dialed
sales.
in.
It's so dialed in. It's unbelievable.
I feel like if I walked into their lobby, they would immediately get worse just by my existence.
I saw him post a picture team meeting, I think it was yesterday or the day before or something. His team is the training process he puts them through. One of my goals for 2022 is something he told me once, and he's like, Mike, he goes, if you don't have a process for everything, it falls back on you. Right. And, for us and a lot of people, I look at process like, okay, the actual insurance process. He's like, no, if you're out of toner and you need toner, well, if you don't have somebody responsible, it falls back to you. And, do you want to spend your time ordering toner? And he has it to that level. So living your best year ever, me and Cameron are, and I think he talked about
I
on
could
his
sell
podcast.
you so much freaking toner.
I was going to say, Kyle's getting excited about the toner
You're
conversation.
like,
You're not talking to me because I got rid of that job.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Cameron because that's actually what I was segueing into when we started talking about accountability. We had him on to record. Actually, that episode dropped last week, I think, or the week before. And I think it's so important, man. I mean, talk a little bit about that relationship and what it's done for both of you, because to me, that's where change starts. Number one, you have to admit that you need somebody to hold you accountable, and you need that relationship, and to be able to then go and have a weekly meeting where you can just be completely transparent with somebody who's not going to judge you about anything that you bring to the table, but also hold your feet to the fire to make sure that you're executing on what you're doing. Everybody should have somebody like that. Period. Whether it's a small group of people or a one-on-one accountability partner, that's something that if you don't have that going into 2022, you absolutely should. The best agents that I know, the best business people that I know all have that. Michael Jordan had Tim Grover, right?
Right.
Tiger Woods had a swing coach. Like, these are people at the pinnacle of their career, and they still have somebody there to make them better. And I guess it probably starts with the fact you got to want to be better first. Then once you get there, then you start you start down that road.
That's huge, and it's, I think it has to do more than just business too, right? And holding us accountable. And we tackled this at the beginning of COVID, and we just started just talking, right? And then this year, the living your best year ever, really focused on a couple main goals and spinning our calendars and our schedules based on why am I spending time on this task if it's not reaching one of my main goals. And we have two completely different agencies. Like completely different, especially the niche he's starting to push on. So, he's, a niche-based national commercial, push right now, growing, millions a year versus more heavy personal lines agency that's a third generation, family business, so they're totally different. And it's nice to get the other person's take on things. If you you want to run something by Kyle and say, okay, what do you think about this, or this cold caller script, do you think this is this is good or this is bad? The person might just say, no, I think it sounds good. I got skin in the game in his business, he's got no skin in the game in mine. You can tell it how it is. And that's been extremely helpful to be able to run these things by each other, spitball them, whether it's life, whether it's business, whether it's what's going on. You got somebody help talk to, vent, all that kind of things. It's been huge. I mean, a few weeks ago, or maybe it was longer, I don't know, and we broke he's really trying to focus on his assignment selling trucking niche. And I'm doing this, and then I'm like, well, why don't you push him to a landing page? Like, why don't you change this to do this? Why are you giving him so much information in this? Honestly, if that was me and you just sold me an appointment, I'm not reading that. I'd be annoyed that you sent me so much information up front, but you need to give the information. Just put it in links to landing pages or links into a more specific form versus just like spitting it all at once. And so we just work on these things together.
Yeah, it gives you the ability to find out what they're clicking, what they're not clicking, how much time they're spending reading this stuff. Right. Maybe you need to repackage, repurpose, whatever else. But I mean, that's a great point, man. I think so many times a lot of us get caught up with information overload to people, when really all we need to do is get them into the funnel and let the funnel work at that point. Let them decide. Let them be self-serve. Go to the landing page. That's great. If you want more, it's got to be your conscious choice that you want more.
To go look at it.
We do that with cyber, right? So we'll drive people to a landing page with cyber that's got a short video that's maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, just gives them the highlights. If they want the full 13-minute video on the 6 things every business owner needs to know before they purchase cyber, they can opt into that. At that point, they can't blame me for it. They made the decision. If they want to download my ebook, they can download my ebook. It can't be pushed back on me that I'm just being aggressive and selling to them or annoying them or whatever else. But I mean, again, and I think it's important too that if you've got somebody like that that's going to be your accountability partner through this process, I think it's really important that you find somebody that, obviously that's honest, that you can trust, but that thinks differently than you do.
Yeah.
Right. I have a lot of people that call me or reach out to me every week, not because I'm smart, but because my mind just works differently. I can't help it, right? I just look at a problem. You could show me something, and it might be the easiest thing in the world for you to figure out how to solve it. I'm going to probably figure out a completely different way to solve it than you did, just because of the way that I'm wired.
And that's important. Otherwise, everybody would just do the stuff that they need to do internally. Yeah, right?
Otherwise
and they just keep puttering
around.
Two buddies
on the phone. You're just two buddies on the phone talking about shop.
And it's funny. Go back to a little bit about video proposals. You could spend 20 minutes talking about a personal lines account with somebody, and you've heard agencies talking about it. Well, I want to make sure I touch on everything. And I'm like, listen, no one wants to sit here for 20 minutes and learn about certain coverages, right? Just give them the information available to you, right? So, that was one of the things we worked on. And, we use an 8-page custom agency branded proposal that's custom to everybody on a personalized basis. And literally, I'm like, I need to make this better. I want to make this better because I want to be able to more about something that you don't understand, because I'm not going to spend 3 minutes going over this coverage. Click here, and there's a video and a blog tied to it. Click here. Everything's clickable in there. That's taking you back to my website to learn more. And, that's what we just, push for his, assignment selling and his trucking process to make it as fine-tuned as possible. And it was going through saying, okay, how can they get to here? Right? Versus you giving that to them and spewing that at them at all times. Because otherwise that's just going to cause, frustration from people, close as much business that way or not. that's where, the two of us, because we think totally differently, we're going at different, avenues. It definitely helps having that person, that we can talk to, and it's weekly. It's not like, hey, at the annual conference we ran in and this is what we're working on. Like we're heavy involved into the sets that each of us are doing to reach our goals for this year.
That's a great place to wrap up, man. We're back on schedule. I want to respect your time. You had to wait a little bit because we had Mr. Hanley just going absolutely berserk on the last recording. But, I mean, I think the things that I take out of this is, number one, we all need to have accountability. We need to be accountable, number one, to ourselves. Number two, to our clients, our team. We need to be open and honest in self-assessment, be very self-aware. That sometimes is more difficult to do. And we need to find that person. I mean, that would be my challenge coming out of this. Find that one person. You don't have to have necessarily a mastermind group or whatever else. Find that one person that has your best interest in mind, just like you have theirs, that thinks differently than you, that that you could, pick up the phone and have that conversation, be real with. They won't judge you, but they will give you honest feedback. And that's the one thing I always warn everybody when they reach out to me. I'm happy to meet with you, talk with you, whatever else. Just understand I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. And that may not be what you want to hear, but it is what it is. So listen, man, I really appreciate you coming back on. It's great to catch up with you. I missed you at Innovation. Missed you at Brain Share. I mean, you're kind of on an island up there. Hopefully it frees up a little bit this next year. And if nothing else, you get the family down to Disney or something and we can catch you down here.
April, Disney.
Nice.
Yep.
Kyle hates Disney.
I'm not gonna be there for that.
Oh, come on.
Every time you're there,
Dave, I'm jealous.
We just took our son yesterday for the first time. He's 18 months. And it was cool. It's definitely different. Like, my wife and her family, they love going just themselves, but which I hate. But going with him was cool just to see him kind of taking everything in and yeah. And I mean, he's, grabbing at things and just like yelling on rides and stuff. That part was cool for sure.
Yeah.
From going as a kid versus going
as a parent, they're like two different total worlds.
Yeah.
And as a parent, as long as my kids want to go, right, I'll take them. Like, just because I see the happiness in their face, right? I see, some of these things. And honestly, it's one of those places where, for the most part, everybody's just happy, right? And, it's nice to just, enjoy. And not that it's a vacation, because it's a ton of work to really do Disney, especially on a week straight basis. But it's something, we obviously haven't gone in a couple years because, we've been in a pandemic for almost 2 years now. But, April we're going. So looking forward to it.
It's actually not a bad time to go, man, because even though it was like a bazillion people to Kyle, it's nowhere near what it used to be now that they're controlling the number of people who come in.
Well, the last
maybe I don't know, dude. I'm telling you, it was nuts. Like I was not even the last time we went when COVID wasn't a thing. It was not the same as that.
I wonder
That
if
shit
it's just
was.
because it's the Magic Kingdom, man. Because we haven't been to MK in a while.
Holy smokes! But if I had to go there for a week straight, I would rather put a campfire out with my face.
So the last two times we went was Thanksgiving week. So you're coming off of Thanksgiving week that still could have that, and we're used to that crowd. So I'm hoping April is a little bit less, especially since everybody has spring break at a different time.
True.
So
cool deal. Well, listen, man, we're gonna wrap up. Mike, keep your eyes peeled. Your team sign is on its way. It'll be there shortly.
Hey, appreciate it.
Appreciate your friendship and you spending an hour with us, man. Always.
Hey, love it. Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for all you do.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.